Okay, good morning, Doug. There's a lot of different things we can talk about today. We're trying to decide where we should focus our energy. The thing that's come out to me that seems we see more and more of is the amount of retail theft and just disorderly conduct all throughout the country at this point. You're saying, does it mean something bigger? What does it mean to you? And do you believe it's even true?
Well, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere right now, in a rural, very peaceable, very quiet part of Virginia. So we don't have theft or flash mobs around here at all. Uh, who's going to be in the flash mob in a place where you have a church about every half mile across all the highways leading into the little town? And I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating, incidentally. So this is a good stable area to be. But oh, that's my boots on the ground view of things that I can see with my own eyes. But what I see in videos and online, which I tend to be skeptical about, it does appear that this a lot of things in the civilization are falling apart. I mean, especially in California, which has always been kind of the leading indicator in the US, and that's been true since at least the 1950s. It happens first in California. And it is amazing that you can go into a store, and as long as you don't steal more than $950 worth of merchandise, you visit the judge. There's no bail. You're out again. And each incident is apparently treated as an individual incident with no relation to previous thefts. So you can make a full-time job out of that. And
Yeah.
especially if you use your cell phone to get together with some friends, uh, that may be a inappropriate word for the kind of people type of thing.
Oh, conspirators.
Oh, conspirators, yes. And say 20 or 30 or 50 of you overwhelm a store, chances are you'll get away scot-free and won't even have to visit a judge. And you can probably steal more than $950 worth. So this is actually quite amazing.
Yeah, it
Um,
is out. But
oh, I was just going to say, I mean, this is like a civilization is collapsing right before your very eyes, isn't it?
yeah, I'll insert a little video montage of some of this so people who may not have seen these videos can get a sense of what it is.
Oh my, can someone call?
I've seen reports, at least, of people who have tried to interfere with it, you know, workers at the stores basically trying to stop them, later being fired for it. There's not any like loss prevention effort at the store level to stop it, and the police don't prosecute it. And so I think, and if the police were involved, it would be a citation, like a traffic ticket. I think is the way it works. So it only encourages it.
Right. If you're a cop, one thing you've learned in the last few years with these criminals that have died or whatever is that you really don't want to put yourself in that position. You really don't. Like, who was that chap that killed America's greatest hero, Floyd?
Oh, yeah, the great folk hero of the 21st century. Oh, that would be oh, starts with the C. I can't remember anymore. We've already forgot about it.
Yeah, exactly. But they've actually built a life size bronze statue to that guy in whatever city died of a drug overdose. It's said, but the cop is doing I don't know how many years for having assisted him in shedding his mortal coil. I mean, the cop certainly wasn't faultless. We've talked about that in the past. But okay, so if I'm a cop, first of all, I don't really want to be a cop today. Uh, it's a high risk occupation in a lot of ways. You don't want to be a cop. And if you are a cop, you don't want to get involved with the kind of people that could turn this into a political escapade of some type. And combine that with the fact that people can steal without fear of punishment, and flash mobs are becoming very popular. Uh, so where does this end? It ends with Walmart having closed several stores. It happens. I think that's in Portland. Totally withdrawn Portland.
Yeah. A couple of just data points we do have is that Target says that they expect $1.3 billion in loss through theft in 2023. So this year, that's up from 500 million last year. So it's increasing dramatically. And they said that their violent thefts, the way they categorize them as violent, are up 120% over last year.
Hmm. Well, plenty of reason for criminals to become much bolder. And $1.3 billion, of course, it is that Illinois Senator Estes Kefauver, which nobody remembers justifiably, I think, said he coined the phrase a billion here, a billion there, and pretty soon it adds up to real money. But $1 billion isn't worth anywhere near what it used to be in the past. But it's still a lot of money for one corporation to suffer in what they call shrinkage.
Yeah.
And it's funny. They don't use the word theft, but the word shrinkage. So it's more degradation of the language and intellectual dishonesty for fear of offending.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's true. And the number might not be that big, but the increase year over year is pretty dramatic, from 500 million to 1.3. The trend is very bad.
so the question is, if it's been said, and I think it's accurate, right, that the benefits, wrong word, but I guess it's the word to use, of the helicopter drop of money that was made during the COVID thing, that's basically all gone, they say now. And it's all gone at exactly the time that student loans have to start being repaid again. This is all happening in the next couple of months. And it's all happening at exactly the time that the stock market is still in bubble territory. I think there's a lot of things that can go wrong all of a sudden.
Right. Well, they're starting to see cracks because you have subprime auto delinquencies at their highest level since 2008 in the financial crisis. And there's a couple of other similar things to that. So, I mean, we are starting to see some cracks in it, at least in the financial system, I think.
Well, and credit card debt is at an all-time high. It's over $1 trillion. All right, that's one thing. But the fact that it's all credit card debt is at something on the order of 22%. Uh, how do you crack that nut when you borrow money? And you put more things on your credit card at 22%. How do you do that?
I mean, so you're just treading water at that point. Eventually, you're going to drown. There's just no way out.
And of course, the other thing is that if you want to buy a house today and take out a mortgage, and we're far away from the days when you saved up uh, to buy a house, and then you bought the house with your savings. And then when mortgages first came in, you'd put 20% down, and it was a 5-year mortgage. Okay. When you buy a car, it's a 7-year mortgage on your car. But wait a minute, at least that's an asset of some type. But most people just lease a car, so it becomes an immediate liability. There's not even the teeny weeny asset on your 50 or 60 or $70,000 pickup truck or SUV. This this is really becoming. I couldn't be more gloomy about the state of the economy.
Well, you talk about cars as a liability. Something related to theft that's related to that is that there's a special liability if it's a Kia and a Hyundai. There's this whole TikTok trend where they teach people how to very quickly hotwire a Kia or a Honda, and in under a minute, very easy to do actually. I seen a screwdriver and a USB stick essentially, and you can do it. And these kids, they call them Kia boys, young kids, often 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, stealing people's Kias, driving them around, rampaging around. Oh, this is very popular in the Midwest in particular, and then abandoning the cars damaged, sometimes totaling them, and they post it all on TikTok. And it's become this thing. It's a whole thing in of itself that's happening. And so if you have a Kia, you have a special kind of liability you walk around with because everyone knows how to do it. Everyone knows how to break into the car and steal it very quickly.
Well, frankly, as an ex-car guy, I could never see owning a car that has you think it means killed in action. Oh, and it's not like they're very fashionable cars, but it's unusual for an Oriental car manufacturer to have a fault like that where people can steal the car easily. I mean, you think they would have picked up on that right away.
Yeah. Well, it's one of these things like someone figured it out. And because of TikTok, it just became really popular and it became widely known. And then it's basically it's retroactive. Basically, every model I think of Kia from since 2011 can do this. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of them out there. We've sold a ton of these things over the years. So there's a ton of them. They're usually pretty affordable cars. So they're often you'll see these in the, you know, lower middle income areas, which is where these the same sort of roving gangs of children going in and robbing these retail stores are the same base type of people that are going and doing this Kia stuff.
Well, maybe those kids who generally don't have fathers, and if they live in the inner cities, don't have cars in their families. So they see cars, everybody's got a car. Maybe you can, if you've got no moral basis in your life, nobody's instructed you on what's right and wrong, or the fact that there is such a thing as right and wrong. So maybe it's just a stage they're going through, or is it? Are they going to get worse? I mean,
Does seem to be escalating. There's lots of you find lots of news stories that say people who stole these cars are doing now robberies. But again, they're 14 years old, 13 years old. These are just children, very young people doing it. But yeah, they're
perhaps
escalating.
it's perhaps it's not a totally new phenomenon because, of course, you had in the old West, you had people like Billy the Kid, who really was a kid, hardened criminal, frankly. So maybe this has always been with us, but it seems like on a much larger scale than it was in the past. But maybe not, because it's been said quite correctly that the most dangerous creature that's ever walked the face of the earth is the young unmarried male. So maybe it'll go away. I mean, but not right away. And the reason I think it's not going to go away right away is because we have actual Jacobins in office in Washington. This is a point I've made many times before, but I think it's really important where the people on top are setting horrible examples in what they say and what they believe and what they do for all the other people out there who don't get any moral instruction. So we know the Jacobins are going to be in office for another couple of years anyway. So I think it'll get worse for at least another couple of years until the elections in 2024. And then we got to ask ourselves, wait a minute, is there any guarantee there are going to be elections? Maybe, maybe things will become so chaotic, maybe with the war in the Ukraine spinning out of control somehow, or maybe with something happening in the South China Sea, where, and since elections aren't things that happen on election day anymore, that used to be the case. It was election day, and you could watch things at night on television at midnight and know who the president was the next day. But apparently, that's not possible anymore. It takes months to figure these things out. And maybe Americans will figure that it's all a sham and a fraud, which I basically believe anyway.
Yeah.
And maybe with all these things, we'll need somebody that'll in a chaotic situation will step in and take control temporarily, of course. Uh, I think anything is possible. I I hope I'm I hope I'm just writing some science fiction verbally at this point, but maybe not.
Or would things be any worse if there weren't an election? If instead they didn't go through the sham and just, deep state put up whoever they wanted? I mean, would it really be much different than what we have now?
No, I don't think it would because I don't think it would because this whole sham of democracy. Look, what we really want and what people do is they confuse democracy with personal freedom. And I think the average guy, at least one that's not on welfare getting all kinds of freebies from the government, he just wants to be left alone so he can build his own life, take care of his family, and hang out with his friends. That's not asking much.
Right. And the government shouldn't be required to make that happen at all.
No, you don't. In fact, I mean, what the president does should be entirely irrelevant, except for the fact that, all kinds of regulations come down from Washington, which inconvenience us immensely, destroy wealth, make it impossible to create more wealth. And they're gradually destroying the currency totally so that your standard of living is dropping right before your very eyes. It's dropping faster than science and technology can make new wealth at this point. I'm convinced of it. I think it's becoming pretty obvious. So it's going to be really gloomy until 2030 when they say we're going to have the Great Reset. And then whatever happens will be set in stone, maybe for a good period of time. Possibility of a revolution in the US, I'd say, is very slim for a number of reasons that we've discussed, but we can mention them again. Thought about this. We were talking about this before. So let's say that the average middle class guy, or what's left of the middle class in the US, most people live in suburbs. So if things really go bad, what are you going to do about it, actually? You're not allowed to defend your own home and property. I mean, then you get caught up in the system if you even try to defend yourself. Maybe even if you drag the miscreant into your bedroom after you shoot him. I mean, maybe that'll insulation. But if you're in the suburbs, it makes it hard to riot. Uh, so how are you going to change what these people do? Because the army and the police are basically going to do what they're told because they all have mortgages and car payments and student loans. They can't afford to lose their jobs, can't afford to quit. So they're going to do it, even if they don't want to. They're going to do it. I don't see any way out of this.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I think COVID demonstrated that people will take it, go along with it. I mean, people's businesses being destroyed, their kids being used, as far as I'm concerned, putting masks on them, putting them in classrooms, masks all day. I mean, and people didn't do anything. I mean, now people, and I think a lot of people have just totally forgotten about all that. Honestly, they're like, we just aren't going to deal with it because there's been no consequences from anything. And even when the data comes out and shows very clearly how wrong, how evil, really, the decisions that were made, put upon people, no one does anything. No one cares. They just want to move on.
And even today, I understand there are 80 universities in the US that are still in full anti COVID lockdown mode with mask wearing at all times on the campus. I guess the most prominent of them was said to be Rutgers in New Jersey.
Good.
And car factories, uh, Stellantis, General Motors, Ford, have to verify this, but it's said that everybody's wearing masks in a lot of manufacturing facilities in the U.S., and they're doing what they're told. Oh, Well, once again, people can't afford to lose their jobs because if they lose their jobs, they can't make their house payments. And God forbid, if you can't make your house payment, uh, then what? Then what's going to happen? Well, can't buy a new house with the 7% mortgage today. Of course,
Oh, God.
7% mortgage could look really cheap when inflation comes back in earnest with all the money printing going on. But maybe since the main source of new money isn't necessarily the Fed itself printing money and depositing it in the banking system, government deficits, but it's loans through the fractional reserve system that are made. And at high interest rates, people can't afford to take out loans. So it's a very complicated situation and complex situation. Almost anything can happen, but none of it is good at this point.
It's like the best case scenario is that the can gets kicked further down the road, right? And that the inflation is moderate. It's going to be there, but it's not going to wipe everyone out immediately, and things just degrade over time. I mean, that's the best case scenario. Is the way I.
Kick the can down the road. What does that mean, though? Does it mean more helicopter drop money if the economy slows down? Get
Yeah.
people to consume more? Well, maybe they'll try that. Maybe they'll do that.
Well, you've heard the rumors about like Alex Jones was the first person who reported this. Someone at TSA told him that starting in, I believe, in mid September, that they were going to bring back some of the mandates around mask wearing, starting with the TSA employees, and then ultimately rolling it out and escalating from there the measures around COVID. And I don't know if you heard the new strain of COVID they call Eris.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very funny because for 30 years I ran something called the Eris Society, Eris being one of the exoplanetoids beyond Pluto, but also she was the Greek goddess of discord.
Yeah.
So
It fits. It
it
fits.
does, it does fit, actually. Why did they pick that particular name for this variety of the flu that's going to come around?
Yeah, but if they are escalating that, like one reason could be because that if they could bring that back and more fear on them, that would give them a great basis for more stimulus.
Yeah, it would. And people will get more used to living in fear and constrained environments and doing what they're told than ever.
And if you just give them a little money along the way, I think they'll go along with it. They get lost on.
Well,
Everyone was way better off financially. And most people made more money with the COVID stuff than they did working and everything being normal.
yeah, not only that, you had more money, but you got to stay at home and watch, you know, 24-hour TV series and God knows what on your widescreen, have maybe have food delivered to you. I mean, I don't think they
Yep.
shut down those businesses.
No, those are all gone.
So that's a pretty sweet life, actually, just to, stay in your cubicle and be amused all day.
Yeah, it's very tempting for people. And so it works. So one reason why maybe this is true that they're trying to get muster this COVID hysteria could be because they can juice the economy more ahead of an election. Also, if you have a sense of crisis, then that helps sometimes. It also keeps the mail-in voting and all the chicanery that can occur around that out there as a possibility going into the 2024 election.
Yeah, I guess COVID is going to come back or something like it. It seems that way. It's unbelievable as it seems to me. The people could be that stupid. It reminds me of that very funny movie, Animal House. I don't know if you're allowed to play that anymore because it was kind of politically incorrect. But where Dean Wormser says to the John Belushi character, uh, fat, drunk, and stupid. There's no way to go through life. But actually, it kind of is if those things are subsidized. And The average American is, they say, 20 or 30 pounds heavier than he was before COVID because uh, of all things, they closed down the gyms and wouldn't people let people go outside. Completely insane. So maybe it helps if people are, well, it does help them. People are fat, drunk, and stupid.
It
But when
seems like it did. I mean,
um,
it certainly consolidated power. The upper middle class gets bashed. Small business people get bashed pretty hard and all that. But and more of that power accumulates to the state and state sponsored actors. I think. So I think it's good for them.
you know what I'd like? I'd like some of our listeners to write in and tell us what we're missing here.
Mm.
What is the big cause for optimism that we're missing? Because I mean, I can only come up with two things. Number one, the average guy, despite all of this stuff, still tries to produce more than he consumes so he can set some savings aside. But where are you going to put those savings when you set them aside? In the stock market, bond market? No, you really shouldn't. Bank account? No, not a good idea. You're guaranteed to be losing ground there. So that's one good thing, which the government is destroying. And then technology continuing to advance. But I wonder if most of the advances in technology today are strictly in the computer realm, as opposed to creating more physical things realm. Well, not entirely. I mean, you've got rockets being launched by private entities and so forth today, but
Speaking of that, maybe I shouldn't bring this up. But did you see the India launch? They claim that they landed something on the moon. Did you see that?
on the south pole of the moon, yes. Uh, well, I wish them well.
Did you, did you see the picture of it?
No, I didn't.
Yes. I'll put it in. I'll send it to you too. It's cartoonish. I mean, it's so crazy. Well, there's a lot of skeptics about the moon landing, including me. And they're like, this does not make it better. It looks so fake. It's so crazy.
I mean, it's like a
Yeah.
little toy rocket or something like
It's
that.
a little cartoon. It's exactly like, it looks a lot like the original moon lander from the US, the allegedly used, made of, tinfoil and duct tape. Um, like that, but it's neon color. So, but otherwise it's the same. And the picture of it it's so fake. It's can't be real. It might be a real picture. It might really happen theoretically, but this picture is not convincing.
Well, of course, the Russians had an attempted
And it
land.
failed. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that
Their animation studio might not be working today. So they couldn't mock up some fake pictures of it. Might have been it. They sent them to the front.
Well, we live in the matrix, so we don't know what's real or what's not authoritatively because most of what we know comes across on a video and it can all be faked,
Well,
unrecognized.
you could see this picture on the Wall Street Journal, Doug. You go to it and it talks about the moon landing that the Indians had, and scroll down and you can see a picture of it. It looks like it's like a Lego cartoon thing. It's so ridiculous.
Hmm.
It's absurd.
Well, anyway, I hope that some of our subscribers will write in and tell us what we're missing. What is genuinely good that's going on, that's really improving, and what is the cause for optimism? Oh,
Well,
yeah.
actually, so the one thing I would say is there's a couple things that are cause for optimism, but these are all on the individual basis. They're not on the macro. The macro seems screwed, but there are things on the individual basis you see that are going well. We talked about the homeschool trend before. I think that's really great. A lot of really smart, good people I know are having kids, lots of them. And I think that's definitely a positive trend. I mean, it's a protest vote for the future, if nothing else, is that people are having kids and all the bigger trends are down. I mean, I know a lot of people who are having kids now. And I think that's a very positive trend. Shows that I think that they're invested in the future. But those are the same people who would save and do the intelligent thing naturally. The risk is, I think, is that they get, well, if you get caught up in the car crash that is the financial system, and and what's going on there, that their lives get upturned by the whole thing. But I think that trend where people are focusing on things that are actually more important than simply trying to acquire more shit, I think it's positive.
Yeah, maybe people will be asking themselves in the future instead of uh, who is John Galt. Maybe they'll be asking themselves using an Arnold Schwarzenegger accent, who is John Connor, who was Sarah Connor's son, who won the war against Skynet.
Well, you got to be having babies to maybe birth John Connor. Someone's got to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you do. Except I hope that John Connor doesn't go to work for the thought police.
Let's hope so. Yeah. So yeah, but if you guys know of anything that positive that we're missing, let us know what your thoughts are, because that would be good. This is, I'm sure we have blind spots. Everyone does. There must be things we're missing. There's also like, in what way do you think that they could continue to kick the can down the road or offset it in some way? Because in the financial crisis, they did manage to pull it all together. That was could have been the end. They managed to pull it together. So there are more tricks up there, that theoretically could be used. But I don't know. It seems like there must be a reckoning sometime soon.
Yeah, and I think next week, hopefully, we'll get those things to offset something that's really terrifyingly bad that we were talking about. So we try to look at both sides of the coin, actually.
Yeah. Next week we'll talk about a end game scenario that is very well articulated and backed up with facts that basically would make it so you own nothing in the kind of with pushing a couple of buttons and you own nothing. And that seems like we'll talk about that next week, but it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, you originally, eh, I thought that these horrible people at the WEF were kidding when they had that goofy looking guy saying, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. But it's true. They really are trying to put that into practice.
Yep. Next week we'll explain the plan for that. And it's pretty terrifying.
And it is terrifying because, throughout history, you've got genuinely evil, malevolent people, like the people that took over Cambodia, uh,
Mm.
the people that took over Russia and the Soviet Union, like the people that took over uh, China, like the people that took over East Germany. Like, it doesn't usually last long, but the people that take over from time to time, countries in Latin America, happens all the time there. It's just the worst kind of people. So,
What I'd argue, Doug, but based on what I've been reading recently, I think you could put FDR in that camp.
yeah, he was always my candidate for the worst president in US history, just the opposite of what most people think. And I'd always put Lincoln in the place of the second worst. And who would I make the third worst?
Wilson.
Be
Wilson.
Wilson. I think Wilson. Yeah, and number 4, I think, would be Lyndon Baines Johnson,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, there's so many contenders for this position, but, and the people that are the best presidents, you don't hear much about them anymore, like Washington and Jefferson to start with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week to talk about something that'll scare you all. So I hope you tune in. And in the meantime, send us any rays of hope or some green shoots that maybe we might be unaware of. We can discuss those too.
Good. Well, talk to you Friday, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Doug.